Hello, my name is Joshua Mugabi. I welcome you to topic 11.1, Inheritance. Learning outcome B. Understand the concept of inheritance using genetic diagrams. And our learning activity in groups. Learners research the meaning of the following terms: chromosome, gene, dominant and recessive, heterozygous and homozygous, phenotype and genotype. Share their understanding with the whole class using visual aids they create. Ensure that individuals explain using annotated diagrams. Genetic terminology, item 1. We are going to look at inside the cell. Learners observe a diagram of a cell nucleus containing thread-like structures labeled B. Here we have the structure of a nucleus. It has label A. It has thread-like structures labeled B. It has as outer structure labeled C, and it has a space inside labeled D. Task: identify the structures labeled B. Identify the structures labeled B. The structures are chromosomes. So these structures, which are labeled B, which are thread-like structures, are chromosomes. State their role in inheritance. State the role of these structures we have labeled as thread-like structures as chromosome. State their role in inheritance. The chromosomes, they carry genes that determine inherited characteristics. So these thread-like structures in the nucleus, which we are calling the chromosomes, they carry genes, and these genes are the ones that determine the inherited characteristics. Item 2, still on genetics terminology. What determines traits? What determines traits? We want to emphasize on this question. What determines traits? A learner asks why humans have traits such as eye color and blood groups. That is the question of the learner. She's inquiring, why do humans have traits such as eye color and blood group? So here we have our Punnett square of the eye color genetics. Tasks: define a gene and state its function. Define a gene and state its function. A gene is a small section of a chromosome that controls a specific characteristic. So we have a chromosome, and the chromosome contains a small specific section called the gene, and that one is that controls a specific character. So here we have eye color, and they are labeled different parents. This is a parent with small b, and those small b, those are recessive blue eye alleles. And then capital B, those are dominant brown eye allele. So an allele, what we call an allele, is a form of a gene that is carried on a chromosome, and that allele controls a specific character. So when we have capital B, that is an allele or a gene. If you have small b, that is a gene, and it is a small section which is carried on the chromosome, and it controls a specific characteristic. The genes carry information passed from the parent to the offspring. So as we are saying, this is capital B, a gene for eye color, and this is small b, also a gene for eye color. So we call them alleles. So when this one combines with this one, we get this eye color, which is brown. So meaning that the information of the gene is going to give us the trait. This gene here, the smaller b, and this gene here, the capital B, when they come together, we form a trait, and that trait is the brown eye. And we are saying genes carry information which is passed from parents to offspring. Now this parent here has handed over a gene, capital B, or an allele, capital B, to the offspring. And this parent here has handed over an allele, small b, to this offspring. Now those alleles there are the ones that are carrying the information which is going to be carried by the trait of this offspring. Item 3. We are still on genetics terminology. We are going to emphasize on dominant and recessive traits. Dominant and recessive traits. In a class, most learners have free earlobes, while a few have attached earlobes. So we have our diagram here showing us the different types of earlobes. Now, when you look at this ear here, the earlobe comes directly and attaches itself on the skin. So that one is called attached earlobe. Whereas if you look at this one, the earlobe comes and forms a curve. Then after the curve, that's when it attaches itself on the skin. That one is called a free earlobe. So in the class, most of the learners have got free earlobes, these ones here, and very few have attached earlobes, this side. Tasks. Define dominant and recessive trait. Define dominant and recessive traits. A dominant trait is expressed even when only one copy of the gene is present. A dominant trait is expressed when only one copy of a gene is present. And what gene are we talking about? For example, if we say capital A is dominant and small a is recessive. When this capital A, even if it is 1, it is in the presence of the small a, the trait is going to be dominant, because capital A suppresses the small a. So we say a dominant trait is expressed even when only one copy of a gene is present. Now, when we have capital A and another allele, capital A, both of them are existing together. That means that both of them are dominant. Therefore, a dominant trait is going to be expressed. But in such a scenario, we have a dominant and a recessive. By the fact that there is a dominant allele, the dominant trait is going to be expressed due to the presence of this one dominant gene present. A recessive trait is expressed only when 2 copies of the gene are present. A recessive trait will only be expressed only when 2 copies of the gene are present. So when you look here a recessive gene cannot express itself because it is only 1. Therefore, when will the recessive trait express itself? If we have a combination of smaller a and another smaller a, then a recessive trait is going to be expressed. That is when two copies of the gene are present. So we have two copies here. There we make it a recessive trait. Identify which trait is dominant in this example. Identify which trait is dominant in this example. The free earlobe are the dominant trait. This one here. Free earlobes are the dominant trait. Meaning that by existence of one dominant trait, we are going to have free lobe. So here we can say that since it is the dominant, we can have genetic combination of capital A with capital A. That one is going to show a free earlobe as a dominant trait. If we have capital A and smaller a, that one is going also to be a dominant trait due to the existence of one dominant allele causes it to become a dominant trait. Item 4. We are still on genetic terminology. We are going to emphasize on allele combinations. A learner is given the gene combination capital B, smaller b for a trait. Here we have our punate for eye color, having parent with capital B, smaller b, and another parent with capital B, smaller b, genes. Tasks. Name this genetic condition. Name this genetic condition. They want us to name this genetic condition. Which genetic condition are they talking about? A genetic condition where the gene combination is capital B, smaller b. This condition is heterozygous. Heterozygous. For example, if you look at this parent here, he has a gene combination of capital B and smaller b. And also when you look at this parent here, the parent also has a combination of genes, capital B and smaller b. That type of genetic condition is what we call heterozygous, meaning that the alleles are different. One allele is capital B, another allele is a smaller b. So they are different. That's where the word hetero comes from. Heterozygous. They are different alleles of the same gene of the same species. Explain what it means. They want us to explain what it means. Heterozygous means having two different alleles of a gene. You have two different alleles of the same gene. For example, we are saying, if you consider this parent here, he has two alleles, and those alleles are controlling a character of eye color. This is an allele or a gene controlling eye color. And this one is also another allele controlling eye color. But the two are different allele. This is a capital allele, this is a recessive allele. But it is the same gene controlling eye color. So this combination is what we call heterozygous, which means having two different alleles for a gene. Genetic terminology, item 5. We are looking at the same alleles case. We are focusing on the same alleles case. Another learner has the gene combination capital A, capital A. And here in our Punnett square, we have one parent with capital A, and another parent also with gene combination capital A, capital A. Tasks: identify this condition. Identify this condition. This condition is homozygous. This condition is homozygous. State one possible outcome. State one possible outcome. Homozygous means having two identical alleles. Homozygous means having two identical alleles. Let's look at this parent. This parent has allele capital A and another allele capital A. So these alleles are referred to as homo. Homo means the same. Homozygous, having two identical alleles. The expressed trait depends on whether the alleles are dominant or recessive. So the expression trait which we are going to see is going to depend whether these two alleles are dominant or whether they are recessive. Item 6. Genetics terminology. We are going to emphasize on what is seen versus what is hidden. What is seen versus what is hidden. Two learners have the same eye color but different gene combination. Their possible genotype here, when we look in our diagram here, let's look at our diagram here. When we look at our diagram here, what are we going to see? We have the possible genotype, capital B, and the phenotype, brown eye color, from this allele combination. Then we have also this combination, capital B, small b. That one also gives us brown eye. Tasks. Define phenotype and genotype. They want us to define the phenotype and the genotype. A phenotype is the physical appearance of a trait. A phenotype is a physical appearance of a trait. So here what we are calling the eye color. Eye color seen, that is physical appearance. And that one is called as a phenotype. A genotype is a genetic makeup of an organism. Genotype is a genetic makeup of an organism. So when you look at the genotype here, it is the hidden substance that cannot be seen. It is found on the chromosome. And it is the one that determines the phenotype. So this one, capital B, will determine the phenotype of the eye color to become brown. And capital B, small b, also due to the presence of a dominant allele 1, they can also determine the phenotype of the eye color to be brown. So a genotype is just a genetic makeup of an organism. Identify which one may differ between the two learners. They want us to identify which one may differ between the two learners. The genotype may differ even if the phenotype is the same. So here what we are saying is that we have the genotype. We have capital B, giving us a phenotype of brown eyes. And then we have a genotype, capital B, small b, also giving us a phenotype of brown eye. So they are asking which one is likely to differ between the phenotype and the genotype. So here we have said the genotype may differ even if the phenotype is the same. So when you look here, the genotype is capital B and capital B, small b. So it is the genotype which is changing, but the phenotype is remaining the same as brown eye and also here brown eye. Item 7, still on genetic terminology. We are going to look at concept reinforcement. Concept reinforcement. Tasks. Match each term with its correct meaning. Match each term with its correct meaning. So we have the terms here and the meaning, but they may not be corresponding. The chromosome, gene, dominant, recessive, homozygous, heterozygous, genotype, phenotype. And the meaning here, two different alleles, observable trait, genotypic makeup, unit of inheritance, structure that carries genes, trait expressed with two alleles, trait expressed with one allele, two identical alleles. So we can try to match which one goes with which one. It may take a lot of time. You can try to pause the video and first match. But now let us go and we correct them. Here we have finished arranging them. When you talk of a chromosome, this is a structure that carries genes. A gene is a unit of inheritance. When we talk of dominant, this is a trait expressed with one allele. And a recessive, it is a trait expressed with the two alleles. Homozygous, these are two identical alleles. Heterozygous, these are two different alleles. When we talk of the genotype, this is the genetic makeup, and the phenotype, these are observable traits. Those are the real meaning of our terms that we have decided. We are still looking at genetic terminology, item 6. And here we are going to look at application to real life. A learner inherits a recessive trait even though neither parent shows it. We have got here our Punnett square of the color of the eyes. The parents have heterozygous genotype, capital B, small b, and they are brown eyes. And even this one is capital B, small b, alleles with a dominant trait. But the statement is saying Alana is inheriting a recessive trait even though neither parent show it. So if here we have the parents showing this dominant trait, but a learner is showing the recessive trait. Therefore, here the learner they are talking about must be this learner here with blue eyes, which are different from the brown eye of both parents. So let's go to the task. Tasks. Explain how this is possible using correct genetic terms. They want us to explain how this is possible using correct genetic term. What is possible? What are they asking for? They want us to explain if the parents are showing a dominant trait, which is brown eye, both of them, and they have a child showing a recessive trait, blue eye, how does this one come about? So they want us to explain it in terms of genetic terms. So here each parent may be heterozygous, carrying a recessive allele, because the child is showing a recessive trait, and yet the parents, both of them, are showing a dominant trait. That means that these parents are heterozygous. They are carrying a recessive allele. That's why there is that possibility of having a child with a recessive trait. The learner inherited 2 recessive alleles. So the learner inherited these 2 recessive alleles, one from each parent. And that's how it is possible for the learner to show a recessive trait, yet the parents are showing dominant trait. The genotype is recessive, so the phenotype is expressed. So we say that a dominant trait is expressed by the presence of one dominant allele. If there is at least one dominant allele, a dominant trait is going to be expressed. A recessive trait will only express itself in the presence of 2 recessive alleles. If the 2 recessive alleles are present, that is when the recessive trait will express itself, like the way we are seeing here. So that's why we are saying that the genotype is recessive, having small b recessive. So the phenotype is expressed as a recessive trait because of the presence of both recessive trait or recessive alleles. That's why the recessive trait is expressed. Key learner takeaway. Here we know that the gene or the chromosomes, they carry genes. And the genes, these ones determine the traits or the character. Dominant and the recessive alleles affect the expression. We have already said a presence of a single dominant allele results in the expression of a dominant trait, and the presence of both recessive allele result in the expression of the recessive trait. Then the genotype influences the phenotype. The type of the genotype is the one that is going to express in the phenotype. So the genotype is going to influence, the phenotype. The genotype influences the phenotype, meaning the genotype is the one that influences or expressed in the phenotype. By this time, now the learners can, one, collectively identify and use genetic terms. The learner can explain traits using simple examples. The learner can distinguish between a genotype and a phenotype. The learner can apply concepts to everyday situation. And the learner can now communicate ideas clearly in a discussion. If you have not yet grasped them, all those items, you can go back and repeat the video and try to see that you get all those items. Thank you very much for participating in the topic 11.1, which is inheritance. We have been looking at learning outcome B. Understand the concept of inheritance using genetic diagrams. We have been using the learning activity. In groups, the learners research the meaning of the following terms: chromosome, gene, dominant, recessive, heterozygous and homozygous, phenotype and genotype. Then they share their understanding with the whole class using visual aid they create. Ensure that the individuals explain using annotated diagrams. Please visit me at Mugabi Joshua Biology on YouTube, and don't forget to like, to share, and subscribe. Thank you.